Hey folks, so we're back again for another day working on Petty Chevy. This would probably be episode 22 or so. It's just going to be kind of like an update on where I'm at with the vehicle in regards to the electrical system. There's a lot of things that I've been doing off camera because it's been a lot of redoing things, honestly, and that's just me being particular and picky. However, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it as right as I can. So I'm going to be jumping back into the switch panel. I've got a couple of other things ordered and a couple other things here that I want to get through. I do have ordered a horn and turn signal kit. I do also have already installed another headlight system, but this does have taillights into it. But I did have to hack into the taillights to get them to work as running lights and taillights. I'll briefly show you that and show you what I have to do to extend the wiring harnesses and get it to work. But that's what I'm going to be jumping into today. More wiring, more sorting, more making it right. Okay, so I'm going to go over briefly, and I do mean briefly this time, everything that I've been doing off camera to get this electrical system tied up all together, everything working. So I was able to find a headlight and taillight kit for rather inexpensive, that's beside the point. But I've got that wiring harness installed. The harness does run up under the car like everything else has so far. It does have its own power and ground leads. I've got the harness mostly ran where I'm going to have it at the back of the car. One thing I need to do is add wires to each connector. As you can see, there's a white wire here. There's also a red and black. Red and black right now is a dim setting, and white, when you apply 12 volts to it, is a stoplight setting. What I've already done is added a signal wire into that harness and ran that all the way into the front cab so I can access my brake switch. And I'll have to add a power wire that goes on the other side of that brake switch. But I just have to make some connections down here and along here to add that white wire so that I can have switched inputs and outputs for the taillights. The headlights that I have on the car currently are those road shock floodlights. I think I'm going to use those as a high beam. The headlights that I do have that I want to use are, well, I mean, they're stylish enough. They are not for a car application, they're not for an ATV application, but I think that they will look good. I could do them sideways next to the grill and have the spotlights somewhere else for high beams. However, you know, that's all design stuff down the road, and that's not a brief explanation. What I've got as far as the wiring harness for the inside of the car, I've got everything tied in here. My existing harnesses for the headlights that I currently have installed on there and the additional headlights. The additional headlight harness runs here with that signal wire running down towards where I'm going to put my brake switch. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm going to have to extend these headlight harnesses. One, I have to figure out how to get them through the firewall, so I'm probably going to use some kind of bullet connectors on those just so that they can actually be run through the firewall without a giant hole in there. I might be able to air saw a hole big enough that doesn't look terrible, that's kind of close to one of those other holes that are already there. I really might do that. But I, regardless, still need to extend these wire harnesses because they'll only go out to probably just shy of in front of the carburetor if I don't. And they're gonna have to go somewhere far out in this space. That's what I'm gonna be working on, extending those wiring harnesses, adding the wire at the back so that I can actually have a working running light and brake light situation. And then additionally, I'm going to clean up the switch panel even more. This is probably the fourth time I've been in the switch panel, but I've got a better idea of how I want to do it, utilizing a fuse block to make my better connections so I don't just have this jumble of wires with random connections that I don't know where they go. So hopefully that'll simplify a lot of things and make it easier to work with. That's what I'm shooting for. But that's what I'm going to be working on today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into all of that and show you guys the final result in a little bit in between. I started by removing the straps that were securing my harness in place so that I could add the additional white wire in connection to the signal wire that I'd already run previously. This way I'll be able to add additional voltage so that I can get that stoplight circuit to function correctly. Alright, so I have everything set up to test. I have my wires extended on the back, tied into the lights here. They're not finalized just yet, for good reason. I also have my signal wire. You can't see it, but it's down here in my hand. And then I also have my hot wire source that I'm going to hook up. So there's a hot wire source that I'm going to use for multiple hookups in here. I'm just going to first connect that to my brake light switch. And then I've got my test wire that I'm going to hook up as well. And I have my switch here in my hand. First things first, I'm going to hold the switch down because it's normally closed, which means that it's always going to have brake light signal. Otherwise, I'm ready to test, so I'm going to go ahead and reset the switch. Nothing yet, as there shouldn't be, because it's tied into that secondary light system that you're going to have on all the time, which is fine, because as you should. There's my dim lights. That's good. Let's let go of the switch. We have bright, dim, bright, dim, bright. My brake light switch, there is the hot at all times source signal, which has nothing right now, and then the signal wire for the brake light switch itself. So if I turn on the ignition power, you can see that I do have battery power there. And if I let go of the switch, I have brake lights. So I'll always have brake lights when the power is on, just as it's supposed to be. Then if I go ahead and turn the lights on, I have running lights. Now I have brake lights. Running, brake, running, brake. It proves that my circuit's going to work, so now it's just going to be installing the circuit And then once that's done, probably hop up here to the rest of the circuitry and sort that as well. And then I have a little fuse box that I'm going to use to get my wiring sorted out as well. So let's dive into that and get that figured out. So first things first, in fixing all this wiring, hopefully for the last time, is pulling the dash panel back. I do already have some of my wires loosely tied up here where they're gonna be. I've got a disconnect for the one headlight harness that I can get to over here. Now, the one thing I failed to do correctly was put some breakouts in the tachometer wiring here. I kind of just ran it through the firewall to get everything hooked up, and I didn't really think about it. So I might have to go back to the ground wire out on this side of the harness, which I think the ground wire is easily accessible to change into a bullet connector, something that can come through that hole in the firewall. But I need to do the same thing with the green wire, because ultimately if I ever go to take this tachometer out, or somebody else does for whatever reason, you really can't, not without much hassle and cutting the wires anyway. So I'm going to have to dive into fixing those connectors over there, and then I'm going to be heading over to this wiring mess still. I'm going to use this fuse block to hopefully act as like a power block and be able to sort this out a little better. I'll have to find somewhere that's easy to mount it. I'm thinking here on this cross tube if I can, to get it to hang down and have the wires accessible, but that is yet to be seen. But that's what I'm going to dive into, is fixing this wiring, hopefully for the last time. Hopefully. Thanks for watching this week's Petty Chevy build on New Yankee Auto Systems. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and also follow us on Facebook. Next week we'll get back into the wiring and hopefully get everything sorted out. Till then, see you next week. Working brake lights. Cool.